In the end, we all shall fall. Welcome to Tabletop Shop.
Hello and welcome back to the Tabletop Shop podcast. Today we are going to be looking at, it's a game that's been looming in the corner, just itching to be talked about, and we just haven't gotten to it yet.
Looming in the corner?
Cody, this
How does
is
that
my
work?
intro. What are
So?
you doing?
Well, when you throwing around words like looming in the corner, I feel like
I guess I should say it's glooming in the corner.
no, it should be skulking in the corner.
Skulking.
If you're
All right,
if you're
fine.
looming, I feel like you're not in a corner. You're kind of like you're standing over someone.
The level of unprofessionalism is just like, it's way past the threshold for our podcast, and that's saying something. All right?
I'm sorry,
was
dude.
I?
You want to take it? You want to take it from here? Talk about your corner
Where was
looming
I?
friend.
Where was I? I don't even know where. Okay. And then a
Looming
board
in the
banter,
corner.
but it's not a board banter. It's a board ranter. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I am one of your co-hosts, Nate Clark. And as always, seated across the country from me is your other co-host, Mr. Cody Pennington.
Looming in the corner is Cody Pennington. How you doing?
Looming on the other side of the country. Is it raining over there in Oregon?
No, it's not. I'm kind of disappointed. Is it raining over there?
It's so nice, man. It's so sunny. I'm sad that I'm recording. I want to be outside.
Well, I want it to rain, so I'm sad that it's sunny.
Do you want an intro question?
Well, first I wanted to explain my intro. You seemed
Okay,
a little
yeah, you need
confused
to.
about In the End We All Shall Fall. Oh, we're going to be... What?
I was just, I think everybody's confused. And there's nobody, if I didn't get it, nobody else got it.
Well, we're going to be talking about Gloomhaven here as our game of the week, right? It was number one on BGG for quite a while
Ooh,
until Brass Birmingham
Big brass.
besmirched it, dethroned it. One of those fancy old
It
words.
was regicide is what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. King of the Hill. So anyway,
All right.
in the
that
end,
makes
we all
sense.
shall fall.
That makes sense.
Yeah, throw me an intro question.
Okay, man. What was your most influential and your most detrimental game from your childhood? So which one influenced you the best as far as your gaming career in the future, and which one maybe affected it in a negative way, if there is one that falls into that category?
Okay, so
Kind of a
where do
weird
we
question.
define childhood? Like, is Catan, is that too late in the game to be a playa?
I don't know when you played Catan, Cody, but childhood, I would say, ends at 12 or 13. Let's say that.
Okay.
So anything up to that age.
I probably had almost played Catan at that point. So I'll throw Catan out. So you want to know what game was the most positively influential?
Yeah. If you want, I can go first because I also thought it might be a good one for me to answer. So I can
Yeah,
give you
I
a bit
want
more
to
time.
hear
Okay.
kind of what you're working with here.
So for me, the most influential was probably Carcassonne because I think that was kind of the first kind of modern strategy board game that was played in our house. It was pre-Catan, I think, for us, and pre-Dominion. And it was, I think, the first time where it was like such a different game as opposed to the things I grew up with, like careers and Battleship and Risk, stuff like that. It's such a very different, just vibe from that. And it was just so much fun. And so I think that was probably the most positively influential one. Detrimentally, it was almost actually not even a game. I would actually say my sister. One of my
Okay.
one of my sisters, and to actually have a game, I'll say Risk, because Risk is a game one of my sisters and I played a lot, and she would constantly make up rules so that she could win, and she did this the most with Risk, and so I blame that on my somewhat lacking in the ability to always get rules correctly. Not because I'm doing it from a from a self-serving standpoint, but I feel like I always get like a rule wrong when I'm learning how to play a game. So I'm going
Yeah.
to blame it on that.
It's the Nate curse.
Yeah.
The Clark curse. That's better.
So that's what I would say for me.
Okay, those are some good options. I'm going to throw you a curveball for my positively
Do it.
impactful game, and I'm actually just going to say RTS video games, specifically, let's say Age of Empires and Stronghold Crusader.
Okay, I like that. I respect
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, that is because they taught me, in retrospect, engine building. Literally engine building. You gotta min-max some stuff. You gotta upgrade your things. You're collecting resources. You're assigning them. It also indirectly I think game design taught me a little bit about balance because stronger units are going to cost more resources to build. So it kind of teaches you to, if you're doing something asymmetrical or you have introducing different units or different types of things, you have to learn how to assign a proper cost in proportion with how strong they are. So yeah, RTS games. How do you
Cool.
like that?
That's a very good answer, Cody. I'm
Okay.
impressed.
Thanks, dude. As far as detrimental, I mean, I don't have a super great answer because a lot of the games I played in childhood, like, they weren't modern hobby games. So sort of all of them were detrimental. But let's just throw Monopoly in there where you're just rolling dice and you're moving. You're not doing
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I mean, I feel like something like Shoots and Ladders might qualify more than Monopoly. Because at
That's
least you get to make
true.
some decisions in Monopoly, right? But it's still like an understandable choice
Yeah.
for sure.
Let's go with Shoots and Ladders because it's stupid. Just luck.
Stupid. Like, it's okay. Like something like just for counting, I guess that's fine. So like up to the age of whatever, when you learn to count, whatever that is. I don't remember. Or like Candyland. There's some color matching and some counting, okay? But once you know how to color match and count, you should not be playing that game anymore.
Yeah,
It's
get a
no
new
longer
game.
beneficial. So,
Well, I feel like we should jump into what we've been playing this week. If you have any new
Absolutely.
plays.
I have a couple.
Oh, okay. I'm impressed.
Well, one of them's digital because you introduced me to Board Game Arena, which I knew existed, but
Oh.
I didn't really realize that there were actually some decent options on it. So, I had a chance to play Planet Unknown. Have you ever played that or heard about it?
No, I've heard of it.
I'll just wear my we're gonna try and breeze through these, but I didn't love it too much. It's a polyomino game where all the polyominoes have two colors on them, and you're placing them on your board, and then you move up on the two associated tracks. Everyone has their own personal tracks for every color, and so that part I like. You have like five, I think it's 5 different colors. So you have 5 different tracks that all kind of have a different small focus. So you have like the water track that basically just has higher scoring. But then you have a technology track where every once in a while you can choose a technology from the ones available. But then you have a kind of predetermined ability track where once you reach a certain level, you unlock certain abilities that are on your player mat. You have another one that every once in a while gives you a 1x1 that you can just fill in somewhere on your map. So I really like that. I love the moving up on tracks. The actual placement of stuff was kind of boring, I thought. There's not a lot of... It's kind of just place stuff where it fits. The only interesting thing is that you also have a rover or 2 rovers that are kind of driving around on the planet, picking up life pods and destroying asteroids and stuff like that, or collecting asteroids, I guess. That part's kind of fun because you can't place buildings on top of your rovers, but rovers don't move very fast, and so that is the only really interesting part of the tile placement, and the rest felt super straightforward and kind of boring. So I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I wouldn't say I'm interested in playing it again. Yeah. So that's Planet Unknown.
Because you're not a super big fan of polyomino games, right?
I think I'm more of a fan than I might have been a year or so ago, but I still don't love them.
It's funny because you're in the process of designing a polyomino game.
I am. And what's even funnier, my next one is also kind of polyomino. So
Okay.
we played Cartographer's The Hornhelm expansion, which I have to say, so I've also played the Frozen Expanse expansion. Hornhelm, so much better, man. The map is a little bit more restrictive, but there's nothing too special. But what's really cool is you have this market of items that you can purchase using coins. You can purchase items that give you special abilities. And so every round in Cartographers, or the 3 of the 4 rounds in Cartographers, you have like a 3x3 grid of things you can purchase, and 3 of them will be available. 1 row or 1 column, basically. So you have an option to spend coins to purchase these abilities that basically all of them ultimately let you move up on this point track. And so however far up, you could get anywhere from only 5 bonus points if you only move up a few times, up to it's exponential. So you could earn up to 50 points or something potentially if you got all the way to the max. And so it's a really cool extra abilities, extra way to use coins. And you have these market thing that you can buy special items. And they're all thematic things, a sleeping bag or like an ink and a quill or whatever. And, stuff like that. It's all thematic stuff. And it's basically just another thing to think about while you're placing things to also move up on this little point track. So very good expansion for cartographers.
Okay. It actually sounds pretty dope. I just added it to my games to acquire.
Yeah, it's like I said, I've only played that one in Frozen Expanse, but that one definitely the better expansion. And then, last but not least, I just thought I'd throw in here, I did have a chance to finally test my prototype. It is a polyomino game, and it's kind of got a Hadara-style rotating drafting mechanism in it. Yeah. And then it has kind of multi-tiered polyomino placement, kind of like a 3D polyomino placement, basically, that I've been messing around with. And so we played a full game. Well, not quite a full game, because I thought I made enough polyominoes, and I didn't. I thought I did the math that would work out for a 2-player game, and I was short like 25 polyominoes. So I gotta say, if you're gonna make a prototype, I do not recommend like doing it, doing a polyomino game, because it is a headache. Yeah. But that's me.
Hey, maybe we should do a board banter sometime soon, sort of as a designer diary. Since we're both working on games, it'd be kind of fun to actually just talk about the process a little bit.
That is a very good idea, Cody. We will definitely put a pin in that, and we will definitely come back to it.
All right, you got it. Before we get to that pin, would you like to know what I've been playing?
Absolutely.
All right, since you took so long explaining your games, we're now running over time. I'm just going to breeze through mine quickly, because I actually have quite a few. Played Three Sisters. This is a roll and write game. That's there's a lot going on in this game. There's a lot of things where you can roll your dice and you can do stuff with. There's like one section of the board that is numbered 1 through 6, and so there's dice that you can draft anywhere from 1 through 6 that you can use to take an action on that spot. In those 1 through 6 areas, you are just growing like basic crops, but then all around the board you can grow some other different crops that have different effects. There's this shed where you can like get farm equipment and whatnot that gives you bonuses. Yeah, based on other things you do. I love sheds too. I guess the only other one I know is Heaven and Ale. That has sheds.
Fun.
So yeah, basically there's a whole bunch of things going on, and you really have to decide like, okay, which of these like 7 or 8 different aspects of the game do I want to focus on this game? So that was cool.
Cool.
Played War Chest with you on Board Game Arena. I feel like you did a terrible job at explaining how it worked.
To be fair, I hadn't played the game in like a year and a half or something.
Sure, excuses, man. Yeah. What? I haven't played it for 16 months. What do you expect from me? And that was actually pretty fun. I would play that again. I'm usually not a big fan of abstract games, but that was decent.
The thing is, War Chest, I think I've said this before on the podcast, but it'll burn you out pretty quick. Like, I think I played 8 or 10 games, and then I was totally done, like totally checked out. Like, all right, I'm done with this game.
Well, I feel like any game you play 8 or 10 times in a row, that
not in a row. I did say in a row.
Oh, just in general?
In general.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still pretty good. Star Wars Deck Builder, I got that in there. I was really disappointed by Star Wars Deck Builder. It seemed like it was hyped up pretty well. It seemed like it came out and like received a lot of good reviews lately. It's rated and ranked pretty well in BGG. It looks nice. And then I played it, and it's just a really boring, very uneventful deck builder. Where you just kind of you just play the cards that come into your hand. That's all you do.
You know what I think, Cody? I think we still live in a board gaming world that's plagued by people that are biased by IP games. Yeah. Despite the fact that you and I both have a very negative connotation with an IP being attached to a board game, I think there's a lot of people that actually rate games higher and actually lie to themselves and think games are better than they are because of the theme, and they actually think that.
I think you're probably right, because I don't know how else this would succeed. Like, people are like, oh, it's Star Wars, man. Star Wars, so cool. Just like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And no offense to anybody who likes Star Wars. I just think that there are probably a lot of people out there that let IP influence opinion too much.
Yeah. IP can do well, as we did in a previous podcast. Dune Imperium, that's a great one. But yeah. Anyway, go listen to that podcast if you haven't. I'm talking to the audience, not you, Nate. I'm sure you've listened to it before. Next, we got Spies, Lies, and Supplies. No, I'm sorry. Air, Land, and Sea, Spies, Lies, and Supplies.
This is a standalone or a expansion?
It's kind of just a reskin, but apparently you can play with both of them put together in what's called the epic mode. I don't know, just makes it longer, I guess. But that wasn't bad. It's sort of a tug-of-war game
Like
Reminded me.
Blitzkrieg?
No, it reminded me more of Hanamakoji. The mechanics are pretty different, but in the same way that there's a few cards in the middle. They're called theaters. There's like diplomacy, espionage. I don't remember what the three were. And there's a very small deck of 18 cards, 1 through 6 of the three different like theaters that you're working on. And so each person is just putting down a card on each side, and you're trying to get the highest strength value. And whoever gets like 2 out of 3 wins the battle, and then you get a certain amount of victory points for that. But the nuances are all the cards aren't just 1 through 6. They have little abilities that trigger either when you play them or they're ongoing. So even though a 1 card is very weak in its strength, it can like let you flip over someone else's really high card. So it's just kind of this back and forth tug of war. And then what's interesting is the game doesn't end right after the first battle. One person, if they think they're losing, they can actually withdraw and give the battle to the other person early. And then the winner gets less points than they would have if you stayed through all the way to the end.
Okay.
Yeah. So pretty fun, plays pretty quick. And finally, just played the Cursed Horde expansion for Fantasy Realms, which adds just like a couple things. Adds like a few new suits that like score based off of what's in the discard pile. And then it adds these cursed items that they give you negative points if you choose to use them, but they give you like a one-off cool ability.
So it accentuates the game well?
It
Distract
does.
too much?
Yeah, because I played Fantasy Realms probably 10 times at this point, like in close proximity. So even though it's quick playing, you kind of start getting tired of it. But the Cursed Horde add a refreshment to it.
Awesome. All right, man, we are screaming hot. All right, it's too much.
I'm
Too
sorry
much
that I
time.
played so many new games lately, dude.
Yeah. Like my time scale says like 18 minutes. I don't know how much is getting cut, but I guess we're at least about 15. So we better get on, Cody, to the game of the week.
Do it.
All right, game of the week. So as you mentioned earlier, Cody, correct? This is Gloomhaven. It's been a while. I mean, I guess we haven't talked about Gloomhaven because you hadn't played it until very recently, apparently. So
Well, technically, I've played Jaws of the Lion for like over a year
yeah,
now.
and I think they're very similar games. I mean, I haven't played Jaws of the Lion, and you've played both now, so I'm sure you can speak to that. But from what I know, they're definitely very similar experiences.
Very much so. I mean, Jaws of the Lion is compatible with Gloomhaven, so you can take the characters in Jaws of the Lion and then play them in the main campaign.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll breeze through a description real quick. Basically, this is kind of a Euro-y dungeon crawler in a way. At least thematically, it's a dungeon crawler. So there's a campaign. There's a ton of different scenarios. You have all these map tiles. You set up a map every round, and everyone has their own character and their own deck of cards, multi-use cards. And then every round, we're all playing 2 cards at the same time. And then we're using actions on those cards to manipulate your character on the board, to attack enemies, to complete objectives, to pick up coins, to do all sorts of fancy stuff. And basically every scenario, you win if you complete the objective, which a lot of times is just kill all the enemies, but sometimes there's other objectives. Or you lose the scenario if everyone dies or becomes exhausted. So that's basically the very, very short description of Gloomhaven. There's a lot of stuff. It's an enormous box. There's a lot of stuff packed into it. There's a lot of unlockable stuff and a lot of secret hidden mystery stuff that you have to, achieve certain things to unlock and open. There's a ton of characters, but that's the base of it.
Yeah. Well said. Where do you want to go from here?
Just jump right into positives, man. I mean, I got quite a bit to say, so I'll try being quick about it, but we can just bounce back and forth like normal, and I can start us off. Basically,
Let's do it.
the characters, man. Oh my goodness. Now, I know you're only just barely starting to tap into Gloomhaven. Basically, you get 6 starting characters to choose from. And then there's at least 10, maybe 12 more. I don't remember the exact number. Maybe even more than 12. Secret characters. They all have their own mini that's in a little box. They all have their own deck of cards. They all have their own special abilities, rules, all this stuff. And that's all locked away in sealed boxes. And every once in a while, you can unlock a character and you can change characters every once in a while throughout the campaign. It's amazing, all these different characters, and they all play so uniquely. By the way, this is going to be a completely spoiler-free review. because, like I said, there's a lot of mystery stuff in the game. So we're not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to spoil anything.
That's good.
But all of the characters play very differently, and that's what's one of the most amazing things about this game, is that you can occasionally change characters and just play the game in such a different way than you were with your previous character.
Yeah, I'm super impressed by the asymmetry and the balancing and just the intricacy that went into Gloomhaven. Like, how much time did Isaac Childress spend on this? And did he have help?
I mean, I'm sure he had a ton of help. He's the one credited as the designer, so like solely him. But I'm sure that there were other people helping with world building and with just all of the different components that go into this game.
Sure.
Because it's crazy.
And obviously this got picked up by, looks like Cephalofair Games.
Yeah.
That's what BGG is saying. So I'm sure, like, I'm curious at what stage this game was when it was picked up by the publisher, and then how much work do they have their team put into it. But anyway.
And then of course you also have Frosthaven that's come out since then, and Gloomhaven 2nd Edition. So
that's right, yeah. I'm not going to get the 2nd edition. So I just, again, finally got Gloomhaven. Actually, no, I got it a few months ago. We were just spending time finishing Jaws of the Lion. I got Gloomhaven for $84, homie.
Yeah.
84. And it was new. It was some special like lightning deal on one of the smaller board game websites. And I just had a price alert on Board Game Atlas. May it rest in peace. And nabbed it. I'm going to call that my first like of the game, is that I got it for $84.
Officially, you're locking that in. That's your first one, so it's my turn.
Locking it in. How much did you get it for? Isn't it? It retails for like $140 or something, right?
Yeah, I think I got it for $120.
Okay, not
but
bad.
it was me and two of my siblings that went all together on it. So, that in a way lowered the price.
That does help, because this is completely a multiplayer game, so helps.
Absolutely. No, it's not. I mean, you can play solo, and I think a lot of people actually do play Gloomhaven solo, but it's also a very good group game as well.
# no friends. Relatable.
Similar to my first point, I just want to say I really love all the unlockable stuff in this game. So that's including the characters, but there's other things too. There's a bunch of like sealed envelopes that come with the game that you lock or that you unlock when certain circumstances happen. All of a sudden you'll read a card or something will happen in the game that'll tell you to open this envelope, and you're like, oh, I don't even know what to expect, So it's really cool stuff. There's ciphers. Like at one point you get like the secret message and you have no idea what to even do with it. There's all that kind of stuff. And I just love it. There's kind of like this big, there's kind of like this big almost mystery on top of the whole thing. And it's just, I love all the unlockable stuff.
It's like almost a legacy game. It's still playable after you've completed the whole thing, but there definitely is like surprises that are spoiled, right?
It's actually not really playable.
Yeah,
like
I thought you could do like randomized campaigns or like randomized plays.
Well, you can do that, but the campaign can only be played through once, really. Like,
okay, gotcha.
You're supposed to put stickers on this huge map board, and those are permanent, and you're supposed to like rip up and throw away cards or whatever, So it's possible if you buy reusable stickers and if you don't rip up cards to basically resort and resell the game if you wanted to, or replay the campaign. It's a lot of trouble, but then you're right, there are like randomized scenarios you could keep doing infinitely.
Yeah. I can't rip up cards, dude. Like, it depends. If the game is a dedicated legacy game, like Risk Legacy, I was fine with tearing some stuff up in that one. But Gloomhaven's like, I spent so much money on this, even though it was severely discounted, and I just want to keep it nice. I'm not going to rip up this encounter.
Yeah, that sentiment totally resonates with me. So I hear you.
All right. I'm going to say this is essentially D&D without the prep work. That is a big plus. Now, sure, it doesn't have the same true experience as D&D. It's not like, I mean, all the interactions happen basically in combat, and then there's some external story elements that you can work within. So obviously D&D is much, much more open world and whatnot. But if you're looking for an RPG experience and nobody wants to be a DM, you just pull out Gloomhaven. It's a little bit of work to run. Obviously, someone has to know all the rules for everything, but you don't have to like beforehand figure out a story of what's going on and flesh out all these characters and do all this balancing and abilities. Like, the game's just already there. That's what it's for, and probably what this largely caters to. This might be the bridge, Nate, for the exclusive RPGers to join the hobby board gaming community.
I think it's one of a few. I think there's a few other out there that deliver similar experiences. But what I think is so special about this one is that it's a bridge to a Euro style game because there's no dice chucking or anything like that in this. The combat is all card based, and the everything else in the game is mostly playing cards and doing things, you know? So it's a very Euro-y style kind of dungeon crawler, which is pretty unique.
Yeah, I guess your battle dex is essentially a D20, but it's an upgradable D20.
Yeah, I love that. It's customizable. I love
Yeah.
that so much.
Are you
Okay.
saying that's something you like about the game?
It is, but you know, I didn't have it written down, but I will say I do like that quite a bit.
Okay, cool.
But I'll kind of play off your point a little bit. Another thing I love a lot about this is the storytelling and the world building are so good. The world in this is so intricately created. I mean, it's not on a level of Lord of the Rings, you know, it's not there, but there's a lot of effort put into this, and there's a lot of text, there's a lot of story, which is really well done, and then the art is just incredible. I mean, the art is upper tier. It is up there, you know? Like, this is one of the few games that games should ascribe to, I think. And it really helps the world feel a lot more real, and it helps you get engrossed into your character more and just into the plot more, into the storyline and everything that's going on. So it works super well as far as like really engrossing you in the game.
Yeah, I'll kind of hop off of that. I basically have the same point, but it was like one of the first things I wrote down for like was the depth of the game. I love the story that you get to play through. I love how you're not just stuck with your basic abilities, but you continue to level up and you can unlock new things that you can not just your little like random D20 battle deck, but your character ability cards that you're using to do things. How each of them has a top and bottom ability, so you have to decide which one you want to use in connection with a different card, and then you play your second card and use the opposite of whatever you did. But then as you level up, you have access to, it's like always 2 new options that you can add to your deck and replace a weaker card. That's pretty dope. Besides that, there's the items you can buy, and you only start off with access to like 14 items, but as Gloomhaven's prosperity increases, I think, there's like more items that become available. I think there's like random items that become available as you do different like side quests, or just different ways they arise besides just leveling up Gloomhaven. And then all the random encounters. There's like the city encounters and the road encounters. That really helps, I think, add a little bit more story to the main story. Even though it's all randomized, it makes it feel a little bit more like a real RPG, where you're not just in the middle of your main quest. You're like, oh, here's this random thing you have to deal with. You have to make a decision, and then you have to deal with the consequences.
And it's those cards are fun too, because it's kind of it's like an event card basically, but you get to make a decision always. And even sometimes characters that are no longer in the game will revisit. I think always like characters that go out of the game will then be revisited in the game through one of those cards. So yeah, it's a fun little add-on to the game. I like it a lot.
I tell you though, the very first encounter we did, it was a road encounter before starting the first scenario of the official, not Jaws of the Lion, but Gloomhaven. And the choice we made, it ended up, we each lost 3 health to start and that's literally the worst time to get that card, because it's not proportional to your character's level. It's just flat, you lose 3 health at the start of this mission.
Yeah.
And you start off with not very much health at all, like for your first level. So that kind of sucked. But
that really sucks. You know, big time.
That's randomness for you.
So another thing is the items. Like, I think the item deck is incredible. First of all, it's huge, but then also the actual system works really well. You know, there's a lot of different types of items, you know, head armor, or like helmets, I guess you would say, but then also
Good
like
point,
armor and footwear and one-handed weapon and two-handed weapons. And there's a whole system for what amount of stuff that you're allowed to have. And then the other kind of extra items. And the system is a little bit complex, but once you figure it out, it's really thematic and really, really well done. You know, it's not like Skyrim where you can just run around with like 30 cheese wheels and 17 swords and all this. You know, it's like no, it's very strict about what kind of things you're allowed to have and how much. And so I think it works really well.
I mean, in Skyrim's defense, there is a weight system. So, you know, you can't carry infinite cheese wheels.
But practically it doesn't translate at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. kind of everything we've discussed between the two of us has probably already been said. I'll finalize mine with the aesthetic and art, ish. The ish is for the art. I do agree that the art is very unique. I'm sort of neutral on it. What I like most about it is it really sets a mood so that Gloomhaven has a very novel feel to it. You see the art, and you're immediately like, yeah, that's Gloomhaven. Even Jaws of the Lion, like it's all the same aesthetic to it. And side note, there's like a spin-off inspired game called Rove that is in the works where it's not the makers of Gloomhaven that are working on it. But though it is inspired by Gloomhaven, and they have the same artist who worked on Gloomhaven that's going to be working on it. So that'll be interesting to see. I don't know if there's going to be some copyright problems there, but I just remember seeing like the concept art for the cover of the box, and it's the same exact art style. All that to say, for me, it's a little bit funky. It's like when you look closely at the characters, there's almost like a lack of definition in some ways. Like everybody has glowing eyes. A lot of people just have like weird jagged lines like for their mouths as like teeth. So it's almost like this gritty atmosphere it kind of portrays. So I guess it works for Gloomhaven, but I don't know if I'd really choose that art style in really any other.
I definitely understand that.
Sure. But I do like the overall aesthetic, not just the art, but the graphic design that went into the game is top notch. Even just your ability cards, how depending on which character you're playing as, all of your ability cards are like a different background color.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a solid matte color. It kind of has this glow effect to it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. The kind of the parts of the card that kind of have this almost neon-y kind of glowing effect to them. Yeah, it's cool.
Not in like a modern crappy city neon way,
in a
like
magical
cool
way.
Neon. Yeah.
Yep. Lastly, for me, is that also it's the multi-use cards. That system I love. Basically, you have a hand of cards. Well, it starts out as like a pre-game deck builder. You pick which cards you're going to take with you into the scenario, because you can only have a certain amount of each level, whatever. So you pick which cards you're going to take, and then every round you play 2 cards from your hand, and they both have a top ability and a bottom ability, and you don't have to choose right away which top and which bottom you're going to do. You just pick the 2 cards, and then when it comes around to being your turn, you can decide which top and which bottom to do. I love that. I love the flexibility you can give yourself while still making plans about what you want to do, but not knowing what the other people are going to do or what the enemies are going to do. Absolutely love that system. And the initiative thing is also worked into that too, which is awesome. Yeah. Okay. Let's get on to negatives then. Cody, you want to start?
Let's do it. Yes. First thing I'll say is that it just kind of comes with the game, but there are so many things to remember when you're playing, especially with combat and like monster movement and when effects apply and how those effects apply. Then you've got this little element track that you have to like move up and down at specific points throughout every round. It's like as you get to know it, it's fine. It's just part of the game. But I find myself kind of constantly like, okay, wait, okay, we're both spaced at this distance from this one monster. Okay, so he needs to choose the guy with the higher initiative. Oh no, but he's doing a ranged attack. So, it's just kind of like all these things where it might be a little bit easier if you actually had a DM just to be like, this monster goes here, done.
I think I definitely agree with you. I agree with that sentiment, but I don't want to scare people away because I want people to know that if this is a game you have, if you invest in this game and you buy this game, it's something you're going to want to play regularly anyways, because there's so much content available for you. So if you play this game once a week or even once every 2 weeks, after a little while, you'll start to really know the game well enough that things will just be automatic. You won't have to like think about them. You won't have to visit the rule book as much, which to be fair, it's obviously there's an enormous rule book that comes with this, multiple of them. But
yes. Big.
It definitely helps in a way to have someone who's kind of the GM, right? Someone has to know the game inside and out and be able to kind of run it so that not everybody needs to know it completely,
Yeah, that's fair. What you got?
Again, it just comes with the territory for a game like this, but the setup is just atrocious. I mean, I would say if you're going to get this game, it's really beneficial to have a table set aside where you can just leave the setup until you're done with it, because Every time I played this, we did not have that. We probably played, I don't know how many, maybe 30 or more scenarios, maybe 35, I don't know. Every single time it was set up and then takedown. And that is brutal. I mean, this is like the worst game I've ever owned as far as that goes. It's just, there's so much. There's so much. Yeah. And you have to have a good system for packing things away and how you store everything. Like we bought little tiny box, like kind of pencil boxes for all our personal stuff. And we bought like a tackle box basically for sort all the monsters and everything. Like you really got to get creative with it.
And it's not just the standard neutral setup every time. It's every mission you play has a different set of monsters and items and like room things that you have to pull out and assemble. Yeah, it's a beast.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the second thing I put up. Setup and takedown is painful. I think you had the right idea because you mentioned before, like you kind of just have to leave this game up. And we even have a game room, so we have a way to leave it set up. But it was like the first evening we played, we had some friends coming over the next day, so we had to take it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little bit troublesome in that way.
So another thing, kind of similar to that, but within the game, the maintenance isn't too bad other than the monster maintenance. So all the enemies, wow, it's a little bit fiddly. Like they all have their own spot and they're all numbered, and there's a section where you could put damage points on every single monster, and then all the monsters have movement, and there's different movement rules, and every single monster has its own movement kind of. Yeah, it's really fiddly. It takes a few games to really figure out how to run it, and even once you figure it out, it's a bit annoying. So in general, I just wish they could have streamlined the monster process because it's a little bit annoying, I have to say.
Hey, what's your deal, dude? This was my first negative. And you're like, well, it's not that bad. It's fine. And now it's a negative for you?
That was your first negative? No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I was saying, well, I said there's so many things to remember. And specifically, I was talking about like monster movement and...
Well, for me, it's not
like
about
all
remembering, though, because the remembering comes with playing the game. But even if you remember everything perfectly, there's still a bunch of like physical maintenance kind of stuff you have to do with the monsters every single round, you know? Okay. That's what I'm specifically complaining about.
That was inferred by my first point, so there you go.
Well, how about you... what's the... not
what?
deferred.
What do you want?
I'm trying to think
What
what
do
the
you want
opposite
from
of
me?
inferred is. Like, be a little more explicit, Cody. Come on now.
Exfer, right?
No. What's your next point?
I just have one other point. Flipping a blank, and this is actually representative of a lot of the randomness that you may encounter in the game. That comes with the territory again, so it's a bit understandable. But that little combat deck where sometimes you have negative effects, like you have a base amount of damage you're going to do on your attack, but then you have to flip over something from your little battle deck and you may get a negative modifier, or you may even just flip over a blank, which just negates your whole attack. And that sucks. If you like, it's coming down to the line, down to the wire, and you really need to hit this final monster. Nobody has any turns left. You play a really good card. You're going to knock him out of the park. You just shuffled your deck, and then you flip over a blank, and you lose the whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that just kept happening to Kirsten and I, specifically in Jaws the Lion, but I know the system is the same in Gloomhaven.
What I love that you can upgrade your modifier deck and make it better and take out bad cards, add in good cards, but I do agree that I don't like a mandatory negate card that completely undoes your action. I think if you have to mix one in because of a road card or something like that, every once in a while, if you have to mix one into your deck, I get it. But I think the one that's always there, every single scenario, you can't get rid of it, I really don't like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically the Nat 1 of the deck, but I still don't
it's even
like
worse.
It. Yeah. There's another few ways the randomness kind of plays up, because each of the monsters, they don't have like ability cards they choose like you can. They just have a little deck for each type of monster where you flip it over, and then that tells you what they're kind of do for the round. And in one scenario we were playing, I flipped over it was a retaliate card. It's like for the next 6 times you get hit by a melee attack, like you do damage back. And we were trying to be really efficient, and so I was dealing with this one monster, so Kirsten could like start moving forward to the next room. And this monster is like a melee monster. Like that's their thing, but they have like 1 or 2 ranged attacks in their deck. And so all I needed to happen was for them just to hit me once, and I'd retaliate and take them out, and we'd be good. We can move on. And it was like 3 turns in a row. They just kept flipping ranged attacks, which means they never get close enough to you to activate the retaliate ability. So it's just things like that where...
Well, why didn't you just get closer to them, Cody?
I don't remember. There was stuff going on, dude. But it's more just the point of there's some ways that the randomness happens where thematically you're like, I should have dealt with this guy. Like, this should be done, but you're just kind of confined a little bit by some of the nuances.
That's fair.
It doesn't happen all the time. It's just, it can be pretty frustrating when it does happen.
Lastly, for me, is I would have appreciated a little bit more variety in the different missions that you do. And I know you haven't played this a bunch, but the majority, I would say, of missions, the goal is just to kill all the enemies. And there are some other ones mixed in that do different things, but generally it's just like kill everybody. And that can kind of get a bit, not old, but it's kind of just like a little bit more variety would have been nice, you know? And I'm guessing this is something Frosthaven or the second edition did better than this one. But this one, it feels like at least 75% of the missions are just kill everybody, you know? And sure, that's most of the fun, is using all of your attack cards and your special abilities and the creatures you summon and all this stuff. That's the core of it. But yeah, just a little thing. So in summation, I absolutely love this game. I adore this game. It's my number 1 game of all time still. And I don't know when Brass is going to dethrone it, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen on my list. That's all I'm going to say. There are some negative, fiddly maintenance things, but ultimately that's far outweighed by just the experience you get from this game. It's incredible.
So when are you going to get Frosthaven?
I mean, I feel like Anna and I could really have fun. Like, I think she would enjoy this game. I think we could have fun going through that, but that's way down the road. That's not happening anytime soon.
All right. Well, not board banter time, but board ranter time, dude.
Board ranter, yes.
We've talked about doing this for a little bit, and we have a few different ideas for what we'll do for this little segment. But sometimes you just got to let off a little steam, right?
Yeah,
you know, there's some frustrating aspects to the gaming hobby, and we're just gonna every now and then we'll do this segment and take this opportunity to just let off a little steam, you know.
And I'm ready, man. So today what we're doing is we're actually doing a versus ranter. So Cody and I each picked a game that we do not like, maybe even hate. I don't know what you picked, Cody. I don't know if you hate the game that you picked, but we each picked a game that we are ready to rip on, and we tried to pick one that hasn't been mentioned too much, because there are a few games that come up every once in a while on this podcast that we really tear into. So we tried to pick something that maybe hasn't been, and actually I gotta say for myself, I don't think the game I picked has ever been mentioned on this podcast, not once.
Really?
Yeah. And actually, I'm gonna say in preparation, I'm gonna turn my volume down just a little bit, because there might be some shouting. So,
okay. All right, dude.
Yeah. You want me to go first?
I think you should. I'll preface mine with I've got some shouting too, and I think this is going to be really fun.
It's gonna be fun. All
right.
Probably won't be too long, but we'll see.
Okay.
Okay, man. So the game I picked, I don't even remember the rank because the number was too long to memorize, but it was somewhere in the 20,000s, I believe.
Okay.
This is an IP game, so let's just get into this. We got The Princess Bride: A Battle of Wits. Actually, do you know this game at all? Have you ever heard of this? Do you know anything about this?
You know what? I think I remember looking up Princess Bride board games, and I feel like I saw this listed. I know nothing about it.
Cody,
it already sounds kind of fun. Let me tell you that.
The fact that you're alive and talking today is proof that you did not purchase this game. So I know you haven't played it.
All right, dude.
You are talking to a corpse right now, Cody, because I've played this game.
I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
Well, I'll just explain it real quick then. Basically, this is centered around the Battle of Wits in The Princess Bride. So, you know, the scene where he's with Vicini and they're doing the cup thing with the whatever it is, iocane powder or whatever, you know. Yeah. I'm just going to breeze over that because anybody who hasn't seen the movie needs to stop listening to this and just go watch the movie anyways. So everybody else knows what I'm talking about. So basically that's the point of the game is there's a certain amount of cups, which are just represented by cards, but there's a certain amount of cups for however many players are in the game. And basically you have a hand of cards, I believe 7 cards or something like that are numbered 1 through 7. And like the odds are wine and the evens are poison. And basically, you are playing your cards upside down, and you're either poisoning cards or you're putting wine in cards if you put them on top of the card. And if you put them underneath the card, you are basically betting on which card you're going to drink. So at the end of the game, whoever's bet the highest on each wine cup, on each glass, is going to have to drink that glass. And if the glass they have to drink has more poison in it, then they die and they lose. If the glass has more wine in it, then they don't lose, then they win. So basically, the cards are kind of multi-use. You can either use them to put contents into the cup, whether it's wine or poison, or you can use them to bet on which cards that you want to end up drinking. So you're kind of affecting the cards in two different ways, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But it's all secret. So you're playing cards upside down, and people know who's who because you pick characters in the game, and they have a symbol on the back. So everyone knows who's betting on what or who's adding contents to what, but they don't know if it's poison, or they don't know if it's wine, or they don't know what number you're betting on the bottom, anything like that. Okay? So that's how
I don't know, dude. This doesn't sound super bad so far. You got betting, you've got multi-use cards. These are some good mechanics.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you think that, because I cannot wait to just rip those words out of your mouth and just put them in the food processor. All right? So, first of all, let's start with how the game looks. Now, actually, the graphic design is not terrible. It doesn't look good, but it doesn't look bad. But it uses screen captures, which is just sad. I mean, it's just it's I feel like using screen captures is the hallmark of we did not have a budget for this game. And so we just took screen captures from the movie. So yeah, I mean, it's sad. Another thing is you pick a character in this game. So, and it has, all the famous characters from the movie, whatever. Everyone picks a character and they have that symbol on the back and nothing else. There's no special abilities. There's nothing interesting. It's just like, hey, I'm Inigo Montoya, and that's it. That I don't do anything Inigo Montoya-ish. I'm just Inigo Montoya, And so it's super lame. Like, they had a chance to put some special abilities in there. Do something interesting other than just putting a face on a card and saying, hey, this is who you are, and you have a deck of numbered cards, No,
dude, what this is, it's the most balanced asymmetry you've ever played.
Oh, no, it isn't, Cody. Let me get to my next point, and this is the worst part of the game, okay? So everyone has a deck of 1 to 7, but then there's the Sicilian deck, okay? Now, the Sicilian deck is a deck of cards numbered 1 through 9, and everybody's dealt one of these cards randomly. And the numbers 1 through 7 are just that. They're just numbers. So you could get a 1, you could get a 7. That's pretty fair, right? Because they're dealt randomly. But also, the 8 and the 9 have special abilities. And they're really powerful special abilities. And you might get dealt one of those instead of a 1. And so you could be dealt a super powerful special ability, or you could be dealt a useless 1. It's unbelievable. And these cards are just randomly dealt at the beginning of the game. There's no oh, you're doing well or you're doing poorly, so you can take a good card or a bad card. It's just here's your 7 preset cards, and here's a random card that might be incredible and give you a better chance, literally, of winning the game than somebody else who has dealt a bad card. It's unbelievable that they would put this in the game and think that it was a good idea. I cannot believe it. I cannot even fathom it that they thought it was a good idea. Blows my mind.
I think maybe a publisher was involved in the creation of this game.
I think they were like, man,
great.
This game's so boring. You know what it needs? A little bit of spice. So let's make it completely and totally unfair. It's terrible, man. It's so terrible. And the abilities are like furnace level, even worse than furnace level break the game abilities. It's terrible.
Okay. All right. So are you telling me that this is a battle of wits, but it doesn't matter how good your wits are, you can just lose?
You can just straight up lose. Because the cards are switch the contents of 2 cups. So if you've been trying to secretly fake one way and then actually stock up on a different card or something, and somebody just plays this and just switches the contents of 2 cups, and now you're betting on something totally different than what you were betting on, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. I hate it. But you know what's even worse? Not even worse. That's the worst part. You know what's stupid? Multiple people can win this game, and multiple people will lose. Because whatever cup you drink from, if there's more wine than there is poison, then you win. And that could be multiple of the cups. It probably will be more than one. So multiple people are likely to win the game. It's ooh, we get to share the victory and other people get to share the loss, but there were no teams. It just happened that way. So stupid, man.
That's great.
So stupid. So the game is boring.
That's great.
The game is random. There's no way to really plan. Everything you place is just kind of randomly placing stuff because everyone else is placing cards and you know where they're placing cards, but you have no idea what they're placing. If it's poison, if it's wine, if it's a high card, if it's a low card, they're just placing cards and you're trying to guess what they're doing. No, there's no basis for guessing what those people are doing. They're just doing random crap. And so you just I guess I'll just play some cards and hopefully I drink something that doesn't get randomly switched by somebody else or whatever. It's just boring. It's random. There's no skill. It's just a guessing game. And honestly, guess who has way more skill and is way more interesting than this? It's just a sad excuse for a game. I hate it. Bad game. Bad.
Did that feel good? Do you feel better now?
I felt good.
A little bit. Have you had the opportunity, the cathartic moment of like just burning a copy of this game?
It's actually not. It wasn't my game. It was somebody else's. So that would have been a friendship breaking moment, I think.
I don't know. It depends how good the friendship is. Like, it might be worth it.
Sibling.
Well, okay. All right, then.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That sounds pretty bad. I don't know if it's as bad as my game, though.
Go for it, man. I'm excited.
Okay. I even wrote out an intro for you. Here we go.
Okay.
Picture this. It's a beautiful, sunny summer day. All is well in the world. Birds sing in the trees, bringing cheer to all. Crickets chirp in the bushes, providing comedic atmosphere for the moment right after a joke falls flat. And the calm water of a pond is gently disturbed by the arrival of a soft breeze. Nearby, a small but spunky hamster looks intently at the pond. His eyes narrow as he identifies his prize, a flower growing atop one of the many lily pads that adorn the water's surface. He steels himself and crouches down, ready to begin his work. The hamster springs forward, running to the pond's edge, throws himself atop the lily pad to claim his flower, and is promptly swallowed whole by a hippo. Life isn't fair, and it doesn't make any sense. Welcome to Hamsters versus Hippos.
I love it. I knew where I was going when you mentioned the hamster looking into the pond.
Yeah.
I remembered this game. We were gifted this game.
Everything I just described is exactly what happens. You have, it's like a 4x4 or 5x5 grid of tiles, of lily pad tiles. And you're just supposed to approach the game. You start on one of the outside tiles. You jump your little hamster on, and then you're supposed to flip over the tiles. But some of these tiles, they're either going to have like additional flowers on them when you flip them over that you can acquire. They might just be like empty. They might just like fall and you just like fall in the water and then, I don't know, like you lose your flowers for the round or something like that. I don't remember. But then a few of them have hippos on them. And if you land on a hippo, the round just ends and you lose all flowers you've accumulated.
Including the ones that weren't eaten by hippos.
Exactly. The thing is, it's completely random. You can land on a hippo your very first move. It's supposed to be a push your luck game, but you're pushing your luck just by playing the game, like just to start it. Like you jump onto the side and you flip over a hippo and it's like, well, the round's done. Nobody got any flowers. And that could happen 4 times in a row.
And then the game's over?
And the game's
so everyone
over.
Could lose. Fun.
Yeah. It's complete luck. So I had fun preparing for this. Let me go through a few things for you. This is rank 18,473 on the Geek.
You know, it's better
Not
than
very
Princess Bride Battle for Wits, I'll tell you that much.
Well, sure. Well, I mean, at that point, it's kind of a debatable number,
true.
right? The complexity, do you want to guess the complexity rating, the voted complexity rating for this game?
1.17.
1.0.
I don't think it goes lower than that, actually.
It doesn't. That is the lowest you could possibly have. People voted on this, and this is a 1. This is a 1.0. I've got some quotes for you for some people who have reviewed this game. All right. Straight from BGG. And I quote, "This is a strange game. Who is it for? I think kids, but there's a darkness to it that feels like it might be aimed at adults. Everything also just feels a little off. Wafer-thin flower tokens that fall between your fingers. Cartoon art that's neither cute nor edgy. A box that's inexplicably exactly double size. End quote." The next one. "Pure luck. Pure frustration if you die in your first tile." Next quote. "A fine kids game, but pretty meh." And get this, even the people who speak well of it can't rate it well. Listen to this one. "A light push your luck game with a cute theme. Fun for all ages. This is a good one." 6.
It's not great, Cody.
It's not great. So a couple people, there 4 10s. This has received 4 10s. The first 10 had no comment, but it was given by a profile called Ford Guy 1. Let's be honest. Someone who likes Fords, they don't have taste in anything, right?
Ooh.
So we can't trust that. The next 10, it came with a quote this time. It said, "Great theme, great designer." Side note, it showed as a pre-order for them. They haven't even played the game, and they gave it a 10.
People like that ruin the world.
I know. The other two 10s, given by two profiles, that when I clicked and I explored those profiles, the majority of the reviews they have given are 10s. Like, who does that? That shows you don't have taste in games. You're just like, oh, this is a pretty good game. I'll give it a 10.
Those are the glasses half full people in the world.
Yeah, way too optimistic. So you can't trust it. Now, kudos for consistency. While I was preparing for this, Nate, I noticed that there weren't any ones, no ones given to the game, but there were 2 2s. So I clicked on the 2s to see who the profiles were that assigned them, and saw my own profile.
Confirmed.
3 people have this game listed for trade on BGG. This is the clincher, Nate. 3 people are advertising that they want to trade this game. I click on the list. One of those 3 people is the designer of the game. Even the designer is like, yeah, I don't want this. This is trash. Anybody else want this? I'll trade you for it. I know it's not worth selling, so I'll trade.
That's amazing.
That's hamsters versus hippos.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
That's all I got.
Well, I
have nothing more
I think
to say.
I have a Princess Bride rated at like 3. So
Okay.
I guess, and it does sound marginally better than yours, but yeah, yours is like on the level of it's worse. It's worse than Candyland or Snakes and Shoots, whatever. Yeah, Shoots and Ladders, whatever.
Shoots and
It's worse
snakes
than
and
that.
ladders. Yeah.
Stupid.
I feel a little bit better.
And that's that. That's our board ranter. I don't think all of our ranters
pretty
will
good.
necessarily be verses. We'll have other things to rant about. But that was a fun one. I liked that. And it's
that
kind
was
of a
good.
juxtaposition because we've done a couple versus board banters now. So it's a nice flip side to that.
Yeah. And we each get to talk about a game that we probably haven't really ever talked about before.
Yeah, which is always good on this podcast.
Yeah. And remember to do that thing you're not supposed to forget to do.
Well, hello and welcome to the outro. I thought I'd introduce it this time. Am I introducing an outro, Cody? Is that what's
Oh,
happening?
dude. It's an intro.
That's
It's
interesting.
the outro intro.
It's the outro intro, and I just want to remind people to go out there and like this video if you're watching a video, or subscribe, or comment, or follow us on Spotify, or rate us on Spotify, or wherever you're listening to it. Interact with us. Send us an email at tabletopshop23@gmail.com. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, Nate kept saying or. None of these options are exclusive of the other. We'd
They're
like
all
to do
ands.
all of these things.
I meant to
Yeah,
say and.
great.
My bad.
Yeah. Well, yep. Cool.
Peace out.